ശരി ശരി
കുത്ത് ശരി ശരി അപ്പോൾ അത് നല്ലതാണ് ഞാൻ ഈ
This is Alicia Andrews, and yes, your eyes aren't deceiving you. She's calmly touching up her makeup inside a courtroom, moments before hearing her fate. Then comes the moment no one expected.
15 മിനിറ്റ് കൂടി അതെ
As the judge delivers a life sentence, Alicia's reaction freezes the entire room. Her composure sends chills through everyone present. That faint smile, unsettling, unreadable, hinted at something far deeper. The woman behind the headlines. This shocking courtroom scene is unfolding in Tampa, Florida, where 22-year-old Alicia Andrews stands accused of serving as the spotter in the targeted killing of Jacksonville rapper Foolio, born Charles Jones. Her demeanor has ignited outrage online, sparking endless debate over whether she truly understands the weight of her alleged crime, or if she simply feels nothing at all. The trial has gripped the nation, not only because of the celebrity victim, whose drill music reflected Jacksonville's violent street wars, but because of the accused herself. Alicia Andrews, the only woman among 5 charged in this ruthless ambush, has become the face of a case that collides gang culture, misguided loyalty, and the irreversible fallout of choices made in seconds that alter lives forever. To understand Alicia Andrews, or at least who she was before June 23, 2024, we need to go back to the beginning. Born February 9, 2003, Alicia L. Andrews grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, a city now infamous for its deadly mix of rap, revenge, and rising body counts. But her story stands apart, and in many ways, feels even more tragic. Unlike her 4 male co-defendants, Alicia had no recorded gang affiliation whatsoever. Yet, this is where her story takes a turn, and where the prosecution and defense begin painting entirely different portraits of the same young woman. The prosecution's version is harsh and direct. Alicia Andrews was a willing conspirator in a premeditated murder. They claim she traveled from Jacksonville to Tampa on June 22, 2024, fully aware that violence was the plan. Her alleged role? Acting as the spotter, tracking Foolio's movements through the night, from a shut-down Airbnb pool party to multiple clubs, and finally, to the Home 2 Suites hotel, all while relaying information through her phone. Prosecutors say she provided real-time location updates to the shooters, Sean Gathright, Rashard Murphy, and Dave Murphy, helping them position themselves for the perfect strike just before 4:42 a.m. The evidence, they argue, is overwhelming. Surveillance footage, cell phone data, and tower records that trace her steps across every location that night. Investigators allege she lied during police interviews, attempting to downplay her involvement. And notably, while the masked gunman came dressed for battle, Alicia did not. She carried no weapon, wore no disguise, because, prosecutors say, she didn't need to. Her weapon was her awareness. Her role, precise, unseen, and essential. But the defense counters with a completely different picture, one that casts Alicia not as a co-conspirator, but as another casualty of manipulation. Her attorney, Life Malcolm, insists Alicia had no knowledge, no intent, and no part in planning any attack that night. In the defense's version of events, Alicia didn't view the Tampa trip as part of a murder plot at all. To her, it was supposed to be a chance at reconciliation, a romantic getaway with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Isaiah Chance Jr. The defense argues that the relationship between Alicia and Chance wasn't just unstable, it was controlling, toxic, and abusive. They claim Alicia was manipulated, coerced, and emotionally dependent, with little grasp of the danger surrounding her. But to understand the weight of what she's facing, we need to break down the charges themselves, and why this case has captured so much national attention. Alicia Andrews stands accused of premeditated first-degree murder with a firearm and conspiracy to commit premeditated first-degree murder with a firearm. These are among the most serious crimes under U.S. law, offenses that carry mandatory life sentences if convicted. For Alicia, just 22 years old, that means her entire future, everything she might have built, dreamed, or become, could effectively end before it ever begins. A lifetime spent behind prison walls, defined forever by one night in Tampa.
This is Mr. Jones arriving. He's been out celebrating, you will find in the evidence. That is Mr. Jones with that open passenger door. The vapor you're seeing is coming out of the hotel. That's some type of a dryer vent. Mr. Jones in the red stocking cap pulling up his shorts. He walks in the hotel. As you can see on the timestamp, which is slightly off by a few minutes, this is about 4:30 in the morning.
But there's one major detail that separates Alicia from the rest of the defendants. Unlike several of her co-defendants, Alicia is not facing the death penalty, nor is she subject to gang enhancement charges, largely because investigators found no verified ties linking her to any criminal organizations. And that difference matters. Florida is one of the few states that still actively enforces capital punishment, and at least one co-defendant, Dave Murphy, could face execution if convicted. The prosecution's decision not to seek death for Alicia could signal two things: either recognition that her role was less central than the shooters, or acknowledgement that her lack of gang involvement removes one of the aggravating factors that typically justify the death penalty in organized crime cases. But here's what makes this story so haunting. Alicia Andrews had no personal connection to Julio Foolio. There's no record suggesting they ever met, argued, or even crossed paths. She had no motive, no direct feud, and no place in the violent rap rivalries that fueled Jacksonville's deadly feuds. If prosecutors are correct, her actions that night were driven entirely by loyalty to a boyfriend, to a toxic relationship, and to a gang war that had nothing to do with her. Those are the questions the jury in Tampa must now confront, and there are no simple answers. What is clear, however, is the timeline. Alicia Andrews was arrested in July 2024, just 1 month after Julio Foolio's death. She became the first of 5 suspects to face trial. Proceedings began on October 22, 2025, over a year after the shooting. And from day one, this wasn't a typical courtroom scene. Reports describe Alicia smiling, laughing, and chatting before the trial even began. Videos circulating online showed her appearing relaxed, almost cheerful, as if she were attending a casual event, not a murder trial. Then came the images that set the internet on fire. Alicia applying lipstick and makeup at the defense table, sometimes with her attorney's help. It was a surreal moment. A young woman on trial for her life, calmly touching up her face under fluorescent courtroom lights, as though preparing for an evening out instead of a potential lifetime in prison. The images spread fast, sparking outrage and disbelief. Across social media, Alicia's behavior became a lightning rod for criticism. Commenters described her as smiling, smug, and unbothered. Fans of Julio Foolio expressed anger, saying her demeanor disrespected both the victim and the court itself. Some labeled her behavior arrogance, a belief that she could somehow walk free despite the mountain of evidence. Others suggested something more psychological, that the laughter, the calm, and the smiles might be her way of coping, an emotional shield against the crushing weight of her situation. But then came the moment that shocked even veteran reporters. During the prosecution's opening statement, when a photo of Julio Foolio appeared, showing him scrambling for cover in the final seconds of his life, witnesses say Alicia smirked. That reaction, caught on camera, left the courtroom silent. For many, it crossed a moral line. A man's final, terrified moments on display, and the woman accused of setting it all in motion appearing to find it almost amusing. Now, the defense maintains that Alicia Andrews had no knowledge of any murder plot, portraying her instead as a young woman manipulated and controlled by her abusive boyfriend, Isaiah Chance Jr. Within that context, her light-hearted courtroom demeanor could actually support their argument, suggesting not callousness, but innocence. If Alicia truly believed she had no role in Julio Foolio's death, if she genuinely thought tracking his movements was harmless, then her calm behavior might be rooted in confidence rather than cruelty. Still, her legal team has never directly addressed those viral courtroom moments, leaving the public to interpret her smiles and makeup routine for themselves. To understand the full weight of this story, we have to turn to the man whose death is at the center of it all, Julio Foolio. Born Charles Andrew Jones II, the 26-year-old Jacksonville rapper wasn't just another name in the headlines. He was one of the most polarizing figures in Florida's underground rap scene, a central voice in a gang conflict that has spilled far beyond the streets and into music, media, and the national spotlight. This deadly feud didn't just play out in back alleys or housing projects, it unfolded online, in viral videos, and in songs that have amassed tens of millions of views. Foolio's music, steeped in the raw, violent realism of drill rap, earned him notoriety. For those unfamiliar, drill rap is a genre born in Chicago's South Side during the early 2010s, defined by its dark beats, cold storytelling, and brutally literal lyrics. But in Jacksonville, drill became something else entirely, a soundtrack to real-life warfare. The words weren't metaphors. They were confessions, threats, memorials, songs that named names, mocked deaths, and predicted future killings. At the heart of this blood feud was Foolio's crew, KTA, short for Kill Them All, tied to the 6 Block set, locked in a decade-long war with ATK, or Ace's top killers, the group associated with rapper Youngeen Ace, born Kenyatta Bullard. Over the years, ATK formed alliances with smaller sets like 1200, creating a powerful coalition against Foolio's camp. And this wasn't just street beef, it was a generational conflict that left a trail of bodies across Jacksonville, each new death fueling another wave of retaliation. To understand how this all began, and how someone like Alicia Andrews, a woman with no gang ties or history of violence, became entangled in it, we have to rewind to the origins. The tension between these groups traces back to 2014, when Foolio reportedly clashed with members of an early local gang network. But the true spark came in 2017. On February 5, 2017, Foolio's cousin, Zion Brown, was robbed by Dean Tree Trey Shorty Thomas, a known ATK member. What seemed like a small neighborhood crime at the time would soon ignite a full-scale war. Just months later, on May 27, 2017, Trey Shorty fatally shot Zion Brown in a home invasion, the act that officially triggered the KTA-ATK feud. From that day on, Jacksonville became a battleground. Retaliation met retaliation. Each killing demanded another. Each funeral became the prelude to a new wave of bloodshed. Then came one of the most infamous moments in the saga, Young Gene Ace's viral hit Who I Smoke. Released in March 2021, the track flipped Vanessa Carlton's soft piano ballad 8,000 Miles into a taunting celebration of death, directly naming slain KTA members and mocking their passing. The song exploded online, racking up millions of views, transforming Jacksonville's gang war into a kind of grim pop spectacle. The chorus asked, "Who I smoke?" a reference to smoking an enemy's pack, street slang for celebrating a rival's death. And Foolio, he wasn't going to stay silent. In April 2021, he fired back with When I See You, a response video that took things to shocking new levels. In it, Foolio stood on his enemies' graves, rapping and taunting the families of those who died. It was one of the most controversial moments in modern rap, the ultimate display of disrespect, but also a chilling window into how real and personal this violence had become. By June 5, 2018, things had already spiraled beyond control. Young Gene Ace was ambushed outside a Jacksonville steakhouse. He survived, but his brother Trayvon Bullard and 2 friends were killed. That shooting became a pivotal moment, transforming the feud from a localized beef into one of the most notorious gang wars in America. In the aftermath of Who I Smoke, Foolio doubled down. Online, he taunted his rivals, posting mocking videos and captions celebrating ATK deaths. It was more than music now. It was warfare in real time. His words enraged ATK affiliates and ensured the cycle of revenge would continue. On July 23, 2018, Lawrence Trey D. Davis III, reportedly one of Foolio's close allies and enforcers, was gunned down at a Jacksonville block party by ATK members. Then, on January 16, 2019, tragedy struck again. Willie Bosgoon Addison, Foolio's cousin, was murdered in a drive-by shooting on Interstate 95. Foolio himself appeared to claim responsibility in social media posts that all but admitted to retaliation, proof of how public and reckless this war had become. The bloodshed continued. On February 25, 2019, Adrian Lil BBY Gaynor, one of Foolio's close friends, was shot dead outside his apartment by ATK member Kassu. This killing finally drew serious attention from law enforcement, leading to multiple arrests, but even that didn't slow the violence. By early 2020, the killing showed no sign of stopping. In January, Charles Lil Buck McCormick Jr., described as Foolio's right-hand man, was killed in a drive-by shooting allegedly linked to ATK. In May, Foolio's girlfriend was shot but survived. Then, on July 6, 2020, Foolio himself was ambushed in Houston, Texas, after revealing his location on social media, a near-fatal mistake that underscored the deadly consequences of online exposure when enemies are watching. But even that close call didn't slow the violence. In November 2021, Foolio was shot again, this time while driving through Jacksonville's Riverside neighborhood. Somehow, he survived yet another attempt on his life. By October 2023, the feud had escalated to an even more dangerous level. Prosecutors say Foolio allegedly placed a $20,000 bounty that led to the killing of Antonio Tilley Jr., an ATK associate. That same night, Foolio was ambushed once again, shot in the foot during a drive-by, but he lived. To many, it seemed like he was untouchable, surviving hit after hit while those around him continued to die. Then came June 23, 2024, the day Julio Foolio's luck finally ran out. He was in Tampa, Florida, celebrating his 26th birthday. Leaving Jacksonville behind, he may have believed distance would equal safety. It didn't. The night began at an Airbnb pool party that was eventually shut down by Tampa police. From there, Foolio and his entourage moved through several nightclubs before checking into the Home 2 Suite Hotel in the early morning hours. Just before 4:42 a.m., gunfire erupted in the parking lot. Surveillance video and eyewitness accounts paint a chilling picture. Multiple masked gunmen emerging from a vehicle armed with modified AR-style rifles, each weapon fitted with brass catchers designed to prevent shell casings from falling to the ground. Those brass catchers mattered. They were tactical tools, devices used to trap spent casings and deny investigators crucial ballistic evidence. The presence of such equipment confirmed this wasn't random violence. This was a planned execution. Prosecutors described it as a hellish onslaught, a phrase that, once the footage played in court, no longer felt like exaggeration. The video shows 3 masked shooters moving with precision, surrounding Foolio's Dodge Charger in a deadly triangle of gunfire. One suspect approached from the lower left corner of the lot, firing a Glock pistol. Another advanced from behind a row of parked cars, positioning himself between a yellow sedan and a silver Mercedes, directly beside Foolio's vehicle. The third shooter moved into position across the street, cutting off any route of escape. When they opened fire, it was chaos. 10, 20, maybe 30 seconds of non-stop automatic gunfire. Muzzle flashes lit the dark parking lot like lightning. Inside the vehicle, Xavier Edwards, Foolio's driver and friend, tried to escape. But in his panic, he steered directly into the line of fire from a third gunman. In those seconds, the ambush became inescapable. The Charger sped off up the west side of the hotel heading north, but by then, the damage was irreversible. Post-shooting photos from the Tampa Police Department's impound lot show the Charger riddled with bullet holes, each one marked by yellow evidence stickers covering the hood, doors, and windshield. The car had been hit multiple times, including 2 rounds that pierced the back window where survivor Ultima Camila Bentley had been sitting. It's nothing short of a miracle that anyone made it out alive, considering the sheer volume and accuracy of the gunfire. Julio Foolio was pronounced dead at the scene. The 26-year-old rapper who had survived countless assassination attempts, who'd chronicled the street chaos in his music, and who had lived on both sides of Jacksonville's gang war, was finally silenced. In response, Young Guinness dropped a song titled Game Over, a mocking celebration of his rival's death, fueling the ongoing cycle of disrespect even beyond the grave. But Foolio's death didn't mark the end. Just 5 days later, on June 28, 2024, Darius Fizzle Bayels, an ATK affiliate, was shot and killed in what investigators believe was a direct act of retaliation. The pattern repeated itself, as it always does in these wars, each killing giving birth to the next, each tragedy breeding another motive for revenge. And now, that brings us to the pivotal question surrounding Alicia Andrews. What connects this young woman, with no prior record, no gang ties, and no violent background, to a deadly conspiracy like this? That's where the courtroom evidence becomes crucial. The accounts of the survivors who lived through that terrifying night, and the digital evidence prosecutors claim ties Alicia Andrews not as an innocent bystander, but as an active conspirator in Foolio's murder. The trial, the witnesses, the evidence, all form a story that the court must now untangle. Alicia's trial officially began on October 22, 2025, in the Hillsborough County Courthouse in Tampa, Florida, with Judge Michelle Sisko presiding. This detail is key because Alicia is the first of 5 defendants to face a jury. The remaining 4, Isaiah Chance Jr., Sean Gathright, Rashard Murphy, and Davian Murphy, are all awaiting trial set for spring 2026. In many ways, this case serves as the prosecution's testing ground. The success or failure of this trial will shape how they approach the next 4 and could even sway plea deals for the others. To understand the larger picture, we need to look at those co-defendants, because their alleged actions provide the context for Alicia's supposed role in the crime. Isaiah Chance Jr., 21, identified as an ATK member, is accused of acting as a spotter alongside Andrews, tracking Foolio's movements and coordinating with the shooters. He's also Alicia's boyfriend, the man whose relationship allegedly drew her into this deadly plot. Then there's 18-year-old Sean Gathright, one of the suspected triggermen, facing 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder with a firearm, 3 counts of attempted premeditated murder, and 1 count of tampering with evidence. Next come the Murphy brothers, Rashard, age 30, said to be tied to the 1200 gang, and Davian, 27, described as a 12,200 associate. Both face premeditated first-degree murder with a firearm and multiple counts of attempted murder. The gravity intensifies with Davian's case. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty, making his trial even more high stakes than Alicia's. Before diving into the testimony, let's look at the pre-trial decisions that defined how this case would unfold. Jury selection wrapped up earlier that same week, but 2 major rulings from Judge Sisko reshaped the defense's entire approach. The most impactful was the court's rejection of the defense motion to introduce evidence of domestic abuse between Alicia and Isaiah Chance Jr., evidence they hoped would support a duress defense. Florida law, however, bars such claims in capital murder trials. The decision devastated the defense, stripping away their argument that Alicia acted out of fear and coercion. That left them with a far tougher narrative to prove, that she had absolutely no idea what was being planned that night. A claim made harder to sustain when prosecutors present digital records placing her at nearly every critical location leading up to the shooting.
Is that Xavier Edwards?
Yes.
You saw him covered in blood?
Yes.
All right, so let me talk to you about Xavier Edwards. I don't know if we talked about him yet. So Xavier Edwards was also there at the clubs with you all?
Yes.
And he was driving the Dodge Charger coming from the clubs to the hotel?
Yes.
However, the prosecution also secured a major advantage. The judge allowed them to introduce evidence of previous gang-related killings to establish motive. This ruling was critical because it meant jurors would learn about the decade-long war between KTA and ATK, the string of deaths that led up to Foolio's murder, and the violent context that prosecutors claim fueled the ambush. That backdrop lets the state frame the killing as a deliberate, organized act born from deep-seated hatred rather than a random outburst of violence. On the trial's opening day, both sides delivered statements that could not have been more different in tone or direction. Assistant State Attorney Scott Harmon, representing the prosecution, described the shooting as a hellish onslaught, a meticulously planned ambush executed by Andrews and her co-defendants. He outlined the state's theory in vivid detail, alleging that Andrews acted as a spotter, following Foolio's movements from Jacksonville to Tampa and providing real-time updates to the shooters. Harmon told the jury that the evidence, including cell phone tower data, surveillance footage, and Andrews' alleged lies during police questioning, would prove her direct involvement in a murder conspiracy. Harmon stressed that while Alicia Andrews never fired a gun, her contribution was vital to the success of the operation. Without her tracking Foolio throughout the night and feeding location updates to the attackers, the shooters couldn't have carried out such a precise ambush. In contrast, defense attorney Leif Malcolm painted a completely different picture. He argued that Andrews had no gang ties, no violent intent, and no awareness of any plot. Believing the trip to Tampa was simply a chance to reconcile with her controlling boyfriend, Isaiah Chance Jr. Malcolm emphasized that Alicia didn't match the shooter's appearance, had no access to weapons, and that the case's lead detective lacked experience. He urged jurors to see Alicia not as a conspirator, but as another victim, a naive young woman manipulated by her boyfriend, caught in events she never intended to be part of. The first witness, whose identity was protected, was a hotel guest who had spent time with Foolio's group earlier that night. She testified about being at the Airbnb pool party that police shut down, then club hopping with Foolio and others. Crucially, she described hearing between 10 and 30 seconds of gunfire at the hotel, though she was in the restroom when the chaos began. She also revealed a personal tie to the broader gang war. She had previously dated Trayvon Bullard, young Geen Ace's brother, who was killed in the 2018 ambush. However, she denied having any gang connections herself and said she did not know Alicia Andrews. The second witness, also testifying under protection, was one of the passengers in Foolio's car at the time of the shooting. Her account was particularly impactful, capturing the confusion and horror of the attack. She testified that she had fallen asleep in the car and woke to a violent crash, at first thinking it was a simple accident, until the truth hit. The first thing I saw was Fio laid out. I thought it was a car accident until I saw the bullet holes, and the driver was covered in blood, screaming. This witness also confirmed she had never seen or met Andrews, a point the defense highlighted to show Alicia wasn't part of Foolio's close circle. The third witness, another protected individual, was in a nearby vehicle when the gunfire erupted. They testified to hearing the shots after leaving a club, panicking, and flagging down police while fleeing the area. This witness also shed light on the larger feud, acknowledging the rap rivalries between Jacksonville's 6-block KTA and ATK, saying that while they weren't personally involved, everyone from our city makes songs about rivals and deaths, underscoring how normalized that conflict had become. But perhaps the most emotionally charged testimony came from the fourth witness, identified in court records as Vandia Norris, Foolio's cousin, and the driver of the vehicle during the attack. Norris was struck in both the arm and shoulder while behind the wheel and described the chaos of trying to escape the gunfire while praying for his life. When prosecutors displayed hospital photos of his injuries, Norris broke down on the stand, prompting Judge Sisko to briefly recess the court to let him recover. His testimony proved pivotal, confirming Foolio's direct ties to KTA and acknowledging the lyrics in his songs that mocked rival members, a key detail that helped prosecutors establish the motive behind the hit. The fifth and sixth witnesses were responding law enforcement officers who provided technical and forensic context to the shooting. Officer Brian Godcharles of the Tampa Police Department testified about arriving at the scene, locating numerous pistol shell casings, and noting the absence of rifle casings, evidence suggesting the shooters used brass catchers to conceal their weapons' presence. He walked the jury through photos of the parking lot aftermath, revealing the chaotic trail left behind. Meanwhile, Officer Michael Fusco of the University of South Florida Police testified that he was alerted to the gunfire by a vehicle fleeing the scene around 4:42 a.m. and arrived shortly after, confirming there were no signs of life inside Foolio's bullet-riddled Charger. During their testimonies, prosecutors played segments of surveillance footage for the jury, visuals that many observers called some of the most damning evidence yet. The footage came from multiple sources, including hotel security cameras capturing the overall ambush, and, remarkably, a nearby Tesla Sentry Mode video that recorded close-up shots of one of the shooters sprinting between cars and taking a firing position. After the sixth witness, court adjourned for the day. Proceedings resumed on October 23, 2025, with more witnesses and deeper dives into digital evidence expected to follow. While full transcript from day 2 remain limited, reports indicate that prosecutors plan to focus heavily on text messages, phone pings, and communication data allegedly showing coordinated movement among the suspects that night. Additional witnesses, survivors, bystanders, and investigators are expected to testify about the gunfire and its connection to the long-standing gang feud, reinforcing the theory of a calculated, premeditated hit. Forensic evidence like the absence of rifle casings, consistent pistol shell patterns, and the placement of bullet impacts all suggest tactical planning and deliberate execution. The trial is slated to continue with Day 3 on Friday, October 25, 2025, where more details are expected to emerge. And as the courtroom drama unfolds, the public remains transfixed, not only awaiting a verdict, but grappling with deeper questions about guilt, coercion, and accountability. Can someone be just as culpable for enabling a murder as for committing it? Was Alicia Andrews a knowing participant, or a manipulated pawn in a war far bigger than her? Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned. We'll continue covering every update from this high-stakes trial as it develops.